Well, today we're talking about commander cards that are scarce, single printings, not reserve list, prime targets for reprints. Don't buy any of these cards. We're going to talk about them.
Jenkenstein, if you're keeping track, I'm wearing my orange hoodie and my white hat. Jake is in his Jurassic Park shirt, and the video starts right now.
Highest level of gratitude to our patrons who power the channel through Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description to learn about monthly giveaways, VIP Discord access, and even our official playmat. Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We're back to talk about card prices. This time we are talking about cards that you should not be buying. But before we get into the cards themselves, if you would, think about hitting that like button if you like the video by the end of it. Hit that dislike button if it makes you happy, but nobody will be able to see that you did.
God, rest in peace, the dislike button. Today we're talking about cards that you shouldn't buy. Let's go ahead and get into these. There's no time to waste.
So first up, Jake.
Wait, Joel, before we talk about Dockside Extortionist, what you need to know about this is if you absolutely have to have these cards, you can't proxy it. Your friends are way too hardcore. The local game store won't let you in without a real card. You can't go somewhere without a Dockside Extortionist, then obviously you need to buy it. But most likely, we're going to see these cards reprinted in the next couple years. So just don't break the bank and buy something that you don't need. Let's go ahead and talk about Dockside Extortionist. This card is just absolutely nuts. Every single time it hits the field, it's a beast.
Yeah, this one is a beast. It is an absolute house of a card. This card is at the very top of my do not buy this card right now list. Proxy this card. It's up to $61, which is twice the price of the pre-con deck that it came in, C19. Don't buy this right now. It's going to be printed. It could have been reprinted in Modern Horizons too. I don't know why they did.
Yeah, it's just one of these cards. It's an absolute combo piece. It's always a backbreaker, but it's a very super competitive card. And if you're not in a super competitive pod, if you don't need it, don't buy it.
Yep, absolutely. Jake, we got another one from a Commander pre-con deck that turned out to be pretty good. Turns out a free counterspell is pretty good, and that's Fierce Guardianship coming in at $40 from C20.
That's right. This $40 card is extremely strong. If you have a commander, it's a free negate. I mean, it's very, very strong. Super competitive, super sweaty, CEDH card. It's just redundancy. It plays alongside cards like Force of Will. Deflecting Swat is another free spell that also holds a $40 price tag. Came out of the very same set, Commander 20, and it's just going to allow you to fork a spell. You're just going to be able to change the target of something. So again, a very strong card, but free spells generally get attributed toward very sweaty formats, very high power levels. A lot of these first few cards here, Dockside, Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, these are all very high power level cards that players who value, very strict low to the ground mana bases are really going to value these.
Jake and I are definitely of the opinion that everything on this list is high possibility of being reprinted over the next few years. With some of these cards, you go, okay, well, where would they reprint them? Obviously, Dockside could have gone into a higher power level set like Modern Horizons. Fierce and SWAT, those aren't going to show up in just any set. That's got to be more of a secret layer. So as we go through some of these, think about where you might see them and the likelihood of those popping up. Jake, $48 for Savage Beating, which is a huge spell that got a lot of attention earlier this year when the professor included it in one of his deck techs. I've made a short on this. It is, easily put into combos where you can just have infinite combat phases because of its choose one ability down there. This was printed in Dark Steel, and with a spell like this, a 7 mana creatures you control get double strike and you get an additional combat phase, this could go into standard set so quick, and not disrupt standard at all.
Sure. I mean, well, here's the thing about this card as well. From a commander's perspective, which, this video is a commander-centric video. From the perspective of commander, it's a 7 cost. If you use the Entwine, it's a backbreaker. It's an absolute win condition when you play this in the right shell. And again, though, this is the kind of card that it gets one reprint and it's just going to go into the dirt. Let's be honest.
So
it's
fast.
A fine card. It's a strong card, but it's just scarcity is propping up the price on this, and it's such a specific use that this is something I would not even touch for this price point, unless again you have to have it for your strategy and redundancy, and most EDH is very casual.
There's not, we did want to include the caveat of, obviously, our advice is don't buy these, but if you have to have it, go rock it out. There's not a lot of them on this list that I'm just like, okay, I can understand why you would say I have to have it. Maybe a card like this, though. This is such a strong elf tribal card that came from Jumpstart, and it was a mythic, and it was, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, or Jake, maybe this one was from one of the rarer packs that, because the Jumpstart packs themselves had rarity, and then this was a mythic.
They did.
And so it's just a crazy rare card printed in this one set, $62.
Okay, so the elf pack that this comes out of, that pack is like very sacred in Jumpstart because it's going to have either Craterhoof or Allosaurus Shepherd. So if you get that pack in your Jumpstart box, you're essentially winning. But yeah, this is a card that you really can't replace it. It's the elf that everybody wants. If you're playing a tribal EDH elf situation, this is going to be one of the #1 cards you want. It's low to the ground. It has everything that you possibly want on it, bunch of can't be countered text, and then also a huge mana sink for later on in the game. There is no replacing the card, but it is completely propped up by scarcity, and that mythic rarity does not help the card's case at all. I mean, for me, thankfully, I don't play a lot of green or a lot of white decks, so this is an easy pass for me, but I can see how other players do want this card. It's actually legacy playable as well, which doesn't help the price.
Right. There is, I was going to say, eternal playability of this. So you've got decks that want 4 copies, and that's hurting the price even more. This is the kind of card
not legendary. Yeah,
exactly.
Strong.
Right. It's not, this is a card I don't think you're going to see in a standard set as far as where we'll see it reprinted. But Jake, you were talking about a possible secret layer for this one.
Yeah, exactly. So like a secret layer with Allosaurus Shepherd and then like a bunch of elves that we don't really care about, like Llanowar Elf would be great in the secret layer. It's a card that's been printed. It's one of the most printed cards in Magic's history. You put it alongside like Elvish Visionary, maybe Elvish Archdruid, and then all of a sudden you have a 4 or 5 card layer where Allosaurus is the headliner. We just saw this with Pathbreaker Ibex, for example. It's there alongside a bunch of cards that nobody really cares about, like Ravenous Chupacabra. It's a great card, but it's worth like 25 cents. We just don't need it. So yeah, a secret layer with Allosaurus Shepherd as the headliner, I could absolutely see it.
At $62, this is definitely a pass for us right now. Jake, Torpor Orb is up next. This is back from New Phyrexia. I had taken a break from playing, and we got back into it around this set, and so this card is very sacred to us. That whole set is. But $22 for an effect that... Is it arguable that this effect could be in standard, just turning off ETBs? That's a sideboard card at best, right?
100%. I could see this popping up in a standard set. This is one of those cards where this is the best ever version of this effect. Like, straight up. We have Hushbringer, we have Hushwing Gryff, we have all of these cards like the Tocatli Honor Guard that came out of Ixalan. They all are 2 cost, and they all do, or not Hushwing Gryff, but a lot of these are 2 cost creatures printed in white that do this ability. You don't absolutely have to have Torpor Orb in EDH, which is, again, this is a $22 card, $21 card, primed for when we go back to New Phyrexia. Maybe we get it back then. Maybe it shows up on the list. It's just one of these cards, very niche effect, beautiful stacks effect. It shuts off ETBs, which are, I mean, I think it's an understatement to say they're hugely popular in EDH. We see ETBs all the time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Torpor Orb, it's just like you can play without it. If you have to have it, again, spend the $20. You're not going to hate having this effect, but it's likely to get reprinted in the future.
Yeah, I remember the first time our buddy Biff played this card, and it was kind of like a, haha, why are you playing that? And then as you go through your hand and decide what to play next, you're like, oh, can't play that right now.
That's why he's playing that.
Can't play that right now. Oh, Rex Sage doesn't even do anything to this card. Okay, cool.
I'll just play this like 3 costs, like undervalued 2/1.
Yeah, exactly. Praetor's Grasp, Jake, this is another card that we are intimately familiar with, also from the same set, New Phyrexia.
Same era, yes. Yeah, beautiful card, 2 black, 1 other, and what's cool about this is not only can you go grab something, Joel said he's grabbed many a Soul Ring with this card, but one of the other fun things you can do with Praetor's Grasp is a more sweaty situation, you can just go grab a combo piece. Go grab the Thassa's Oracle that your opponent inevitably wins with every game if you're playing CEDH.
Right.
You know, go grab any combo piece and just turn off that combo. Or maybe you play Oracle yourself and you're gonna go do a little redundancy, go grab your opponent's Thoracle and then just Demonic Consultation and win. There's a lot of good applications for Praetor's Grasp. It's so versatile. You know, I'm not even surprised that this card has crept up to $15. But again, we can just hammer the old scarcity bell. Where's the scarcity bell? Do we have one of those?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
It's just a scarce card. It's just, it's good and rare.
Yeah, this is the kind of card that I could see supplemental to a Secret Lair featuring Phyrexian Lore or Praetors themselves. You know, this is one that I could definitely see in the next year or two. This is one that's a little weird, Jake, because Imps Mischief, while it is a $23 instant spell from Planar Chaos, it's not easily reprinted. This is a spell that is off color for its entire text here. Change the target of target spell with a single target. The only part of this card that's really black in color is you lose life equal to that spell's converted mana cost. That's sort of the trade-off. But this couldn't go into a standard set because of what it does to the color pie. For this set, if you're not familiar, they mixed up the color pie and they got to do anything they wanted to do, really. But that can't be the case now. So I could see this coming into a Secret Lair. I could see this being in the deck of one of the, you know, like a Secret Lair commander precon of some kind. But at, you know, $23, I don't see this being in a, you know, standards set commander precon decks reprinted that way, or a standard set. And I really don't even see it in, like, you know, Modern Masters or Modern Horizons 3, for example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's a list card for sure. It's one of those cards that does need a reprint because, you know, as time goes on, more and more players, you know, if you're in black, if you don't have the kind of spells that typically are able to do this kind of effect, then there are going to be players that spring for this just to have that redundancy. Like you said, you play this in your black deck, or not redundancy, but just access to any effect like that, you know,
right?
Anything that breaks the pie. So yeah, it's an interesting card, and definitely needs a reprint. I would not buy it if you don't need it. Again, very, very specific effect. And Pitiless Plunderer, this is an uncommon, came out of Ixalan block, and God, what a wild set. The prices are all over the place. This card is just nuts. It's a $12 uncommon, and when you read it, you understand treasure is a huge deal in Commander. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sack, creates a treasure. This is a huge proponent in going wide. It's great in any kind of sacrifice deck because you're getting double duty out of all of your sack triggers. It's just very, very strong.
Yeah, Aristocrats decks love this. Ixalan, I was just telling Jake when we were going through this list and making the video, it seems like we could do a whole video just talking about Ixalan block and how perfectly it landed with all of the chaos and different factors that surrounded it to make some of these cards in this set chase expensive cards at this point. I mean, if you opened a box of Rivals looking for $12 uncommons in packs, that's pretty sick. That's more than the price of most rares in standard sets than you're opening. And
for sure.
Just hunting a little uncommon in this set turns out to be crazy. But yeah, this one, they have proven time and time again now this year especially that treasure is a ubiquitous mechanic. It can go in any set and it can pop up in any card pretty much. So Pitiless Plunderer getting a reprint is not a matter of if for me, it's a matter of when, and I think that when is going to be sooner rather than later. So $12 right now for Pitiless Plunderer I think is a little bit of a waste of your money. Now we're to Greater Auromancy, Jake, and again, Jake and I were sitting there going through the prices for this video, cutting the cards we wanted to cut, and we got to the price for Greater Auromancy, and at the same time we both audibly went, oh God, when we saw that this card is $64 from Shadowmoor. It's not just being played in Commander. That's why the price is so freaking expensive, but it's a good card with a great effect. Very niche.
Yeah, it's 2 costs, right? So it's just so cheap to play. And this is a perfect example of, like, for example, Uril. Sometimes you gotta like power through some of those enchantments before you can even get to the the creature, right?
Yeah,
to your general. So it's like, this is protecting those. Again, everybody knows that enchantments, artifacts are the permanents that are the most difficult to remove in the game. And yeah, this is just one of those cards where it's like, yeah, we get it. If you want to protect your stuff, this is a great card, auto include if you already have it in your collection. But this card desperately needs a reprint. I would bet, you know, my collection that we see it in like the next couple years. This card is going to pop up either on the list or something that's going to move the price downward. I like to think back to like Daybreak Coronet, for example. This was a card that was like a $30 or $40 card when Modern Boggles was really taking off. That's an enchantment that you absolutely have to have in that deck. Daybreak Coronet is like a $2 card, a $1 card now. This is a perfect example of a card, in my opinion, that if it gets reprinted at rare, it just absolutely tanks in price. It just goes to the floor. It becomes like a $5 card. Once there are enough copies of this to satiate the players that want to play enchantment matters decks, this card is just going to go to the floor.
$64 makes it the most expensive card on this entire list, with Dockside being third at $61 and Allosaurus being second at $62.
Well, we do have one card coming up that's actually more expensive than these.
I know that. I was going to say so far. Before we get to the most expensive one, though, Jake, tell us about Polluted Bonds. You've played this card the most out of us, for sure.
Yeah, this used to be in Karavik. I really do love this card. I used to have a foil copy of it. I traded it away. I don't know where it is. But 2 black, 3 other. Whenever a land comes into play under an opponent's control, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Anybody who's like ramping, if you play in there, I mean, I get it. This is a 5-cost enchantment. This is an expensive mana value. So it's a more, in my opinion, a more casual commander card. But it's an effect that's just so brutal, and it's just such good passive value once it's stuck on the board. I mean, it hurts everybody in the best way, and you're gaining life the entire time. It's a beautiful card.
It's our second Shadowmoor card in a row alongside Greater Auromancy, 2 enchantments from the same set that have proven to be almost $100 worth of value together because of their long-lasting stay in Commander. Now, to the most expensive card, Jake. It's a Boro Palace in the Clouds.
Dude, this is a card I wish I had for Mill, but I just can't justify spending $86 on it.
$86 for this legendary
And I'm
land.
sure you can find a busted copy for like maybe like 70s. Again, all prices in this video need to be taken with a grain of salt. Sure. We do our best to like lock them down, but there's so many different vendors and there's so many different like conditions that you can buy cards in. But yeah, very expensive card. It's perfect for mill because you play crabs that when a land enters, they mill cards, right? But this is one of those cards where it's just like, again, such a specific niche effect. Very few players are going to want this, and that $80 price tag, that seems like a good spot to maybe push the new Kamigawa set. Maybe include these lands and many others like it. This card also, before Joel has some stuff to say as well, but before we say that, this card is one of those that is very rare. It comes from a cycle. And so, you know, we did see Shinka get a reprint on the list. I would bet, though, that we see something like, for example, in Zendikar Rising, we got all of the box toppers, right? You could pull the fetch lands, you could pull Cavern of Souls, Strip Mine, Wasteland, all of these different cards. None of them were standard legal. However, they did appear in those collector products. So I could see these, if they don't get printed into a standard set in Kamigawa, I could see them being chase cards in the collector product, maybe even the set booster product. Who knows?
Or the companion secret layer. Every set now has a companion secret layer that comes out at the same time and is some lands in the same treatment of the lands in the set, and that's how the secret layers roll. So yeah, maybe Jake, so. The companion secret layer for the neon legendary lands, I can totally see that being a secret layer because that's how they get our money now.
And it would be insane value, right? It would be exactly like how we responded to the Praetors, where we were like, oh, we have so much extra value here.
Buy.
Right, but here's the thing about that, and what's really interesting is we've gotten to this point where we're just like, oh, there's all this value here, but, you know, in the past, you had to crack open boxes on boxes on boxes to get all those mythics. Now you can just buy as many of those chunk of mythics as you want in one sitting, it just puts so many of them into the into circulation that, yeah, you know, if somebody just buys 10 copies of the Kamigawa lands, just, you know, the 5-color cycle, whatever, it's just going to drive the price way down, which is great for players. I would pick a couple of these up in a heartbeat if the price was reasonable.
Everybody, thank you so much. Those are our picks for most likely to be reprinted, or don't buy these MTG cards right now, or primed to crash. I don't know, just pick whichever one of those works best and use it as the title, Jake.
That sounds good. See you later.